Fighting broke out at a Donald Trump rally in Tucson last night with audience members punching and kicking an anti-Trump protester. Take a look. Police later led the protester and the African-American man who attacked him out of the arena. Joining us now is Ashley Parker, correspondent for the New York Times, who has covered a number of the Trump rallies. So you write a piece saying that you first felt unsafe at a Trump event a couple of weeks ago in New Orleans. Was that unnerving?
It was just, you know, covering Trump is not like covering a typical politician. And so at this rally, basically the energy became very sort of tense and very frenetic from the very beginning. And there was an almost constant stream of protesters getting marched out and fighting with the crowd, and the crowd was turning on them. And that's, you see protesters at other politicians' events, but sort of not at that level and not at that intensity. So it was striking to notice. Was it unnerving for you personally at all? Yeah, it was a little unnerving personally. And, you know, as a reporter, you're sort of trying to figure out, like, where do I want to be when this breaks out, and how are we going to cover this, and what is the best position? You warned your editors sometime after this, someone is going to get seriously hurt at one of these rallies or worse. Should you have written that story? Could you have written that story? So we actually, before Chicago happened, we actually did write a version of that story where we talked about the role of the protesters at Donald Trump rallies and sort of the increasing intensity and just what it's like to be a protester and what it's like to be a member of the crowd. So we didn't sort of know that Chicago was going to happen, but we saw things headed that way. Right. So after the Chicago event, with the violence breaking out and with the cancellation of that rally, you wrote a piece. In this same piece, you said, at times, both sides have behaved badly. But you say the Trump supporters you've interviewed have been almost unfailingly courteous. Protesters, many of the minorities, feel wronged. Some have instigated the clashes. Yeah, I mean, what you see is, and I'm hopefully in that piece I didn't sort of create a false equivalency. To be clear, there's plenty of protesters who are standing peacefully, silently, and they are hauled out, they are pushed, they are shoved. But you also see protesters getting carried out, and they're shouting, and they're, you know, flicking off the crowd, and they're screaming, and the Trump supporters are screaming. It's sort of like a mosh pit where tensions are high on both sides, and that's where you see these kind of clashes and skirmishes occur. But don't some of the protesters go there, the ones that are more organized, with the purpose of shouting him down or getting the rally canceled or just being a disruptive force? Sure, I think absolutely. I think at the beginning what you saw was just protesters, and at a certain point the protesters realized that the way they could sort of reclaim their voice, which is something you hear them speak a lot about, is to come to these events and interrupt him and force him to stop speaking, or in the case of Chicago, to shut it down, and that's sort of their form of social protest. I ask that because a lot of the coverage has focused on Donald Trump and his words and punching him in the face as if he's responsible, and I'm not letting him off the hook, but I just want to underscore the point that some people go there for the express purpose of disrupting. So I'm watching television Friday night. There's a Trump rally in Utah. Things seemed like they were going to get tense, and I'm thinking, there are all these television cameras here, and maybe do we give these protesters too much media attention, or just the fact that this is now a thing, a story, might encourage some people to go and, you know, disrupt the thing and get on television? Sure. I mean, I think what you're seeing is both from the side of the protesters who know that if they go and they disrupt, they'll get attention, but also from the side of Donald Trump, right? Like, protesters have become a part of his rallies, the way talking about, you know, making America great again is a part of his rallies. And sometimes, if there aren't protesters, you see him say, where are the protesters? Do we have a disruptor, right? So he kind of eggs them on as part of his showmanship. In a way, he likes them. Which adds to the excitement, and which, of course, in turn attracts more television cameras, and then Trump's getting all this airtime. Ashley Parker, great to see you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for stopping by this Sunday.